Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Angela.
And this is NFGeeks. Okay, so this is more of our ENFP extravaganza. Okay, and what I want to talk about for this episode, Angela, is how we are perceived by others and why we're perceived that way and what are we doing right and wrong on this. And
that is a good topic.
And even perceived with ENFPs perceiving other ENFPs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with something Dave used to say. Dave was one of the original hosts of NFGeeks.
Yeah.
And Dave said to me once, he said, you know, Mike, every ENFP I ever met, I thought was an SP. I thought they were just a wild, partying, living in the moment, crazy person. And he said, that includes you. Okay, including me. He said that about me too. He says, you all act like SPs, irresponsible. And, you know, out there and doing everything for, like, this sensual experience and, you know, kind of like the way the SPs are. And I used to say, no, Dave, I'm an NF too. I want love. I want, you know. But here's the thing. Dave was very intuitive, and I think he was right. He was picking up on something about us. So I want to talk about the way people perceive us. So first of all, how do you feel about that statement? Just in general, what's coming out for you?
Well, I feel like I can see where Dave's where Dave's coming from, where just from even my experiences, where when I was younger, I was very, like, you know, outward. I always wanted to be the center of the party, and I was always running around. But then as I got older, it was a little bit less like I wanted to be the center of the party, and more like I just kind of wanted to be the center. You know what I mean? Like, not, I'm going to do the most crazy thing I can think of to be the center of attention. It's more, well, if I just come out and start talking to people and being myself, they're going to understand that I deserve to be the center of attention.
All right, now how does that connect, though, with sort of the wildness and perceived partyness of us? Because it seems that we're the most partying of the NFs, which doesn't say much because NFs aren't that partying compared to other types, but we're considered to be the partying of the four. You know what I mean? We're the most likely to be drunk. We're the most likely to be high. We're the most likely to have, like, a lampshade on our heads.
Yeah.
Out of the other, the INFPs would never do that. They're too shamed.
Oh, no.
You know?
No.
And INFJs don't leave their closet. You know, they're off, you know, meditating or something. You know? So they don't, the other types don't do this. So, first of all, if you had experiences like this, like, what do you think?
I'm trying to think, because, like I said, it's been a while since I had my days of partying, so to speak, but I feel like I can understand why we would be the partying kind of people, where we'd be expected to be the one with the lampshade on our head, or be the one that we'd be expected to be the one that's drunk or not worrying. It's more because we're not worried about it, whereas maybe some of the other ones, maybe some of the other people would be more worried about, oh my god, I can't get too drunk because people are going to see me drunk, and I don't want anyone to see me drunk. I'm like, I don't really care. If I get drunk and I get crazy, then people see who I am when I'm drunk.
Yeah, that's a good point. We should have talked about this in the last episode, that, you know, ENFPs are known for feeling comfortable wherever they are. They're never in a real place of social discomfort. That doesn't mean we don't acknowledge that we're like the odd man out, you know, but we're not uncomfortable with ourselves, no matter what the social situation is, even if we're, you know, the only person that's like who we are in a place, you know, if I'm the only man, you know, around women, or if we're the only white people around African Americans, we'll acknowledge that we're like, oh, we're the only one like that. But it doesn't bother us. We're not, like, upset about it. We're like, oh, okay, I'll just be the weird person.
We'll go with it. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with it. And maybe that translates into times when we're having more fun.
Definitely.
All right, but the impression is that we're most likely to sort of go over the edge, over the top, and do sort of dangerous and silly things that we shouldn't be doing. Does that ring any bells for you?
Well, just from the research that I've done, and just in general from my previous experiences, it's been that I am expected to be the one where if anybody has a situation where they want to do, or they have something that they want to do, they're like, oh, everybody else is going to think this is crazy. Let's call Angela. Let's see if she wants to do it. Because we're generally the ones that are like, oh, sure, I'll take something on. I'll try it. Versus, you know, I'm not going to go jumping off a building like maybe, you know, an SP would or something like that. But I'm a little more open. I want to say more like that. I'm a little more open to suggestion of, hey, let's try this, rather than let me just go do the craziest thing I can think of.
That's right. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. It may turn out fine, right? You know?
But we're also aware, versus maybe some of the others. We're aware that there's a possibility that something bad could happen. So we're also aware of that at the other end, versus maybe some other people might not think that it's...
Right, like SPs. Who go like, blasting through, no matter what. They just go, forward through the wall, whatever. ENFPs wouldn't do that necessarily.
Especially if it's going to maybe hurt us emotionally or physically.
Yeah.
Or...
Okay, now, so let's do another one. And again, each one of these gets a little more traumatic. Okay, so now we're going to...
I'm prepared.
I hope so. We're going to the next one.
I'm prepared for it.
And this one bothers me a lot. And that is that for some reason we're perceived as being a little flighty. And that people don't think that we're smart as we actually are. And we always are actually pretty smart. But yet somehow we come across as being, I don't know, loopy? Flighty's the right word. And I've watched ENFPs on YouTube. And I think that about them. I'm like, wow, they're so flighty. How could they be ENFPs? So have you had experiences where people kind of seem to react to you as being more goofy and flighty than you actually are, not as serious as you actually are, or smart as you actually are?
Yeah, definitely. Especially me, because I'm a sports person. I played a lot of hockey, and I played with a lot of guys, and being the only girl, which I was, of course, fine with, I'd rather be, the one that's the different one in the room. And it definitely went that way, because I felt like even if I was just being myself, some people were looking at me as I was trying to get attention, or I was trying to be purposely weird, I guess. But in reality, it's no, that's actually me. And those people who aren't NFs, or especially not ENFPs, can't understand how my brain is working and how my personality is coming out. And I could definitely see how it comes out to people as, oh, she's kind of weird, or she's a little out there, or her brain's maybe, I'm going off the deep end. But I'm really not. It's just my personality. Almost, I think that maybe what some of it might be is we scare other people with our ability to say, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to be how I want to be.
Sure. And there's a couple of things that resonate, and this is why it's an ENFP extravaganza today. I hope I can get it all out. Okay, the first one is, yes, we do scare people. People are scared of us,
Absolutely.
And they're intimidated by us, and we don't understand. We just want people to love us so badly. We're really pathetic.
I know.
But people get scared by this is from the last episode, the fact that we can read them accurately.
Mm-hmm.
That really bothers people. I've had people really be upset with me for doing that, and being put off by it. And also I think the weirdness they're put off. They think there's more madness than there actually is. That's true about me, and you'll agree about my teaching.
Yeah.
That on the surface it looks like complete madness, but over the semester and you realize all the ideas, no, there's actually a theme.
No, he actually kind of knows what he actually really knows what he's talking about. Right,
there's actually something underneath it that's going in a specific direction. Whereas every day though, it seems like chaos, but it really isn't chaos. I'm trying to remember what else you said that resonated. Oh, all right. Okay, again, we got to get deeper here. So, I find that. And because we're so caring, we need attention. There's something gender specific about this, and that I find that ENFPs like the opposite sex and like hanging out with them and being in the center of their world than being with the same sex. And maybe it's because when we're the odd man out, or that the attention and the love that we're seeking. So, for example, you talked about being around a lot of guys, you play hockey, these are all very tomboyish things, right? I definitely prefer the company of women. I could easily just be with a bunch of women sitting around talking about flowers or whatever. I mean, I would much rather do that than actually talk about sports.
Yeah.
And you might do this and I want to know if you have a female version of this for yourself. But I do this thing where, and I've talked about this in NFGeeks before, I think, where I read enough on CNN about sports. Like I go to Sports Illustrated, and I read about just enough so that I could get through a 10-minute conversation with another man if I'm forced to. So you know what I mean? Just to get, if I'm waiting in line at the supermarket and they start talking about, Tebow or something, I can get through it. But after 10 minutes, my knowledge drops right off.
Oh yeah.
So do you have a female version of this where you try to learn things that women are going to talk about just to get through it?
Yeah. I think that kind of falls into place when we're talking about having in my age group, it's having kids and everybody's getting married and stuff like that, and I'm kind of in that place where I definitely hung out with a lot of guys, and I feel like that got a lot of even negative attention from a lot of my girlfriends because it turned into the girl catty thing of, because I hung out with a lot of guys, it looked to some other people that, you know, I was out to steal somebody's boyfriend or something like that, when in reality it was just, I can't have a conversation with another girl.
That's right, and that's going to lead us into the next thing, and that's bad because ENFPs are notoriously flirty. I mean, we can't even help it. And we're even innocent about it. We're even doing it, like, innocently.
We don't even know we're doing it sometimes.
Right. We're just trying to be nice and friendly. But on some level, we know. Yeah, I think we know. Especially when you're dealing with the opposite sex. You kind of know.
It's also the other thing of, yeah, I'm kind of hot, so I'm a little bit looking for that kind of attention to know and, you know, signify that I know what I'm feeling.
And especially if we're getting it from the opposite sex. It's like, oh, okay. All right, so now we got to go into the trauma. Now we're going right into the trauma.
We're just going to dive into the abyss now.
Yes, okay. Now we go in. And that is that, and it's going to be tough to talk about. I'm not going to lie. But there's sort of a perception, especially amongst our fellow NFs, that ENFPs are kind of slutty compared to the other NFs. Now, we're not, and this goes back to the original thing, that somehow we're all SPs. Like, we're just screwing for the sake of screwing, and we're just having... You know, we don't care what's going on and whatever. And again, like all the other things, that's not true. Well, the sluttiness might be true. But the fact that we don't care, that's absolutely not true. I never met an ENFP that wasn't deeply involved in love and romance and wanting the real thing.
Even the quickest fling means the world to us. And it's like the end of time. Even if just a 2-week fling ends, it's like we lost the love of our life.
Oh, and it's horrible. And then... being in the middle of the fling and knowing that it's not going to last, that's horror. That's terrible.
It's terrible. It's awful.
Okay, horrible. It's very painful. So what do you think about this fact that we're sort of perceived as being a little slutty? Or maybe even a lot slutty?
I think a lot slutty is the better word. Just because, like I said before, growing up with a lot of guys and having a lot of guy friends, that's the way that it is. And some of my female ENFPs can understand where I'm coming from, where you feel that emotional upset when someone's calling you something negative, or, you know, if somebody calls you a slut, and I don't know, I'm sure it goes the same with, obviously they're not calling you a slut, but...
Oh no, Dave called me a slut.
Oh, alright, well, Dave's a little different.
Well, he was an NFGeek.
Okay, well, he can, and he understands because he wants to do it without hurting your feelings. Some people aren't that considerate.
Oh no, he didn't care, he was an INFJ. But he was saying it out of friendship, so that's...
Yeah, well, and... I think that's what happens, is people see it as, but you also have to think of it too, as people who aren't NFs are going to see it as, they're not seeing it from the emotional thing, that we're looking for an emotional companion. They're just seeing it as, oh, you're just sleeping around, or, oh, you're just jumping from, you know, mate to mate, or whatever.
But do you think that's true about you? Do you think you're slutty?
No.
No, not at all?
When I was younger, I probably was pretty slutty. But not slutty, but, you know, we're also kind of... right on the line there.
Well, I find that, and I'm speaking for myself too, that, so, you know, obviously I'm an ENFP too, but I think that when ENFPs are in love, when we're in love, and we care about love, we're NFs. It's a big deal. But when we're in love, nobody has to drag us into bed. We don't have to be dragged into bed. Doesn't mean we'll jump right in. You know, we'll wait a day or two. You know, we're not going to, but we don't have to be like, no, okay, fine. You know, we don't have to be forced into that.
Yeah, that part I think is true. And that, the other thing also going with the fact that it doesn't take very long for us to fall in love.
Right, either. So we're in love in like 2 days. And so after like 3 days, we're ready. We're already there. We're waiting.
Even after a couple of times of intimate conversations, and, you know, just one thing just ends up leading to another, and everybody says that, oh, it just happened, but with us it really does. It really does just happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It does just happen. And if anything, ENFPs are waiting for the other person to come around. Mm-hmm. In love and sexually. Like, waiting, like, okay, you ready? Can we get this going?
Yeah. You're almost kind of baiting it, so that you're not the one who's starting it. So then that goes with the, I can't be perceived as slutty if he comes after me. That's one thing. That's different. And that's the way I see it, is if I almost feel like in some of my relationships I baited it to say, you have to come after me if you want me. That's the way it's always been. But again,
which is very manipulative as an ENFP.
Yeah. But it's emotional manipulation.
Yes. So you admit you're a slut. That's just
okay.
a
All right.
slut with a heart.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
I'm a golden slut.
Ha!
We'll say it that way.
Oh, that's very ENFP. All right. That's great.